I was having a lovely caprese salad with tomatoes, buffalo mozzarella, and basil, which is actually of Indian origin. People think that basil is Italian. It's actually Indian in origin, and you can look it up if you don't, if you don't agree with me. But Italians use it more in their cooking than Indian people do, and Indian people don't really use it as a herb at all, which is quite interesting. Now, I did say that I would not talk about Bam for the rest of the year, and that I'd put that matter to bed. But I was just thinking about her and going over listening to some of our conversations. And my channel is primarily about human behavior. That is a theme that runs through this channel. It's a little bit of true crama, a little bit of food and lifestyle. And it's about human behavior. That is really the main theme that runs through it, and current events. Anyway, I found Bam's second channel, and I was just clicking through some of the videos on that channel, and I found one of her videos and I clicked on it, and she was talking about sea life, and how animals, I'm always thinking about food. She was talking about sea life and animals, and how animals are treated in Australia. And I just sat there laughing. I thought to myself, she's the last person that should be talking about how anything's treated. And like I said, when I was associated with Bam, when we had I don't know if you can call it a friendship, but when we were in contact with each other on a regular basis, I'm not going to say anything other than she was available at all times. She listened. I enjoyed our conversations, but over time, I could see that she started to deteriorate. And I don't diagnose people on my channel, but I can say what I think may be happening. And I believe these are the factors that affect Bam and her behavior and why she acts the way that she does. I think that she has a very, very extreme version of NPD. Like I said, we're all of us, or most of us, have narcissistic traits, probably about at least 0.5% of the population. And I've told you many times, I have a very narcissistic parent. So all of us have narcissistic traits, but we don't all have NPD. But I think that's what she has. I think she has an extreme version of that. I think she's grandiose. I think she's self-serving. And I also think she's very delusional. She seems to think that her channel was some kind of country club that people were just lining up to get into, to be accepted. And, with the Hefner claims and the modelling claims and the claims about Emma Kenny wanting to take her content, all of these things suggest to me that she is very deluded and grandiose. I don't think Hefner knew who she was, and I don't think Emma Kenny knows who she is. If Emma Kenny does know who she is, I still wouldn't believe that Emma Kenny had any interest in taking her content. If you have a channel that has 200,000 subscribers, over 200,000 subscribers, and the person that's saying that person is trying to take my content only has 2,000 subscribers or 3,000 subscribers, which isn't bad, but it's certainly not what Emma Kenny has, that is that person is definitely deluded. And I don't know if she actually believes what she says in terms of the Hefner claims, the modelling claims, the Chanel claims, the claims that she's dating a surgeon, or she just says these things because it feeds her ego. And I think that's what it is. The appetite that she has to feed her ego is enormous. And I would say, in terms of the people that I've met on YouTube, there's only one other person that's like her, and that's Justin. And I never thought I'd say this, but her and Justin are very, very similar. Both have enormous egos that they constantly need to feed and fill. Both look externally outside themselves to find validation, because their validation doesn't come from simply flattering themselves. People like that look externally for validation, and she got that validation with her loyal subs. You know, people like Sheila, who agreed with everything that she said and complimented her and never questioned anything that she said. So she got that external validation with her subs, who subsequently found out that she was not all that, you know, she claims to be. And I never thought I would say that she and Justin are the same type of people, but they are. And I'm talking about Justin Lee Reacts. She's just basically just like him. And it's really interesting. It seems to me that e-beggars can recognize other e-beggars very easily, because once she came to me and she said, you see that guy talking about Justin? She says, all he does when he's on YouTube is e-beg. She liked Justin at first, and she liked the videos, you know, because as the more she had disdain for the Rusex, the more she liked the critique channels. But when she saw that he was, you know, constantly asking, you know, when he had that, you know, the begging bowl behavior, when she saw that begging bowl behavior from Justin, she totally turned off of him. I mean, and I actually think it's not so much Claire Morgan is the reason why she has the disdain for the Rusex. It's because of the money that she thinks or believes that they have acquired over time. I believe that's her real problem, and that's her primary issue with the Rusex and primarily Frankie Jr., because of the money that he's been given and the money that he's gotten over time. That's her real problem with the Rusex. That's what she really dislikes about them. Not so much the Claire Morgan stuff. Yes, the Claire Morgan stuff was definitely an issue for her, but I think she probably embellished some of the stories about Claire Morgan. Claire Morgan is definitely not a lawyer or an attorney. That was established long, long ago. But, you know, she talked about people coming to her house and putting flashlights in windows, and she's so attractive that men are after her and all that kind of stuff. You know, I think that was embellishment. You know, everything is about feeding her ego. Another thing that I notice about her is that she has a very hard look in her face. I'm not talking about how she looks, whether she's good looking or not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about her face. Very hard, very rough exterior. The type of face that has, you know, lived quite a difficult and challenging life. She also, the way she speaks, and people have said this about me, and that's okay. You know, we can all interpret things differently. But she talks, the way she talks like she knows everything and looks down at other people as she's talking. You know, she's really full of herself and full of her own hype. The other issue with Bam, which filters into her, you know, NPD, which I think is her primary issue. So it's NPD mixed with sociopathy and psychopathy. Her other real problem is, or real issue, is her extensive arrogance. She always brags about how people are fixated on her and are giving her attention that she doesn't want, and people are obsessed with her. But that's her. She gets obsessed with other people. When she decides that she doesn't like you, she becomes fixated on you, and she becomes fixated on taking you down. And you saw that behavior in the way she was towards Mummy Ramblings. Now, I'm not a fan of Mummy Ramblings, but her behavior in the last few weeks, leading up to when she was, you know, taken down, her behavior towards Mummy Ramblings, I don't know how anybody could have co-signed that behavior. And that's the behavior that she complains that other people do to her, or other people are behaving like, but she engages in that type of behavior towards others. Her claim that she has a personal reference number for Ofcom. I mean, all of these things, and thinking that she can talk to people and treat people like the CP that she made about me, thinking that she can talk to people like that, and it's acceptable for her to do it, but it's not acceptable for people to speak their minds. And I think one of the things that she didn't like about me, and I think what she began to dislike about me over time, is that I'm very independent minded and I express my independent opinions, and she couldn't control my independent opinions. She wanted me to have the same level of disdain for the Rusex that she does. She wanted me to do videos about Shanann, like what Justin was doing, or like what Barbie was doing, Um, she wanted me to do those types of videos about Shanann. She wanted me to love Cindy and Ronnie Watts or like Cindy and Ronnie Watts. She wanted me to have exactly the same opinions as she does. And I think because I was such an independent-minded person, and my opinions, I had some similar opinions to her when it came to crowd justice, Claire Morgan, Frankie's behaviour, in terms of requiring donations. I had the similar opinions to her on those things, but there were other different opinions that I had, and I always was honest with her. I told her from the beginning, or at least not directly her, but I said on my own channel from the beginning that I didn't agree with the things that she said about Amber's daughter, or to Amber's daughter. She didn't like that. She doesn't like objectivity, and once she thinks that she can get you under her spell, she expects you to comply. And I think that's why the people that were left in her channel were still there, because they complied with everything. And if they did disagree with her secretly, they probably wouldn't have told her that. Sheila backed up everything that Bam said. When I talked about Emma Kenny, Sheila went after me for that. When I talked about Hefner, Sheila went after me for that. She backed Bam 100%, and Bam saw that the people in her channel were under her spell, and they were used for her personal gain, because she got people defending her like Sheila did. She got people giving her gifts, donating to roof funds and stuff like that. And that's essentially what she does. That's the psychopathy of her, how she can use people to benefit and gain for herself. Somebody who is she ended up really not liking me because I'm too independent-minded. I tell her what I really think. I didn't support AD, and she wanted me to think exactly like she did, and she really tried to turn me against the Ruseks. She also has a way of using divide and conquer techniques, which is what she did with Ali. She was telling her subs to block Ali and stuff like that. Divide and conquer techniques that she has. She would also start some of her live stream by saying, if I see you in such and such a channel, don't come back here. So this is the type of personality that she has. She likes to have control over your mind. And if she can't control you, well, you're not for her. And the people that were left, people like Wiccan, Sheila, Darzen was making I do like Darzen. Darzen has always been good to me. I actually think he's a much nicer person than Bam, personally. But Darzen was talking about how Bam is our queen, and she likes that kind of thing. She likes it when she can be the leader of the pack, and she's got her little subordinates underneath her, supporting everything she says and agreeing with everything she says and doing exactly as she asks, and thinking of her as the leader, as the queen. I mean, she loves that kind of stuff. So, Darzen was very, very much an example of somebody who was definitely a supporter who enabled her, and he probably didn't realize he was enabling her. But that type of behavior, saying somebody who behaves like Bam does is some kind of queen, that just encourages her even more. So she had a lot of people giving her encouragement and making her even more arrogant. I admit that I've gotten to the part of the podcast where all kinds of things are coming to mind, and I'm getting kind of tongue-tied, and she did a lot of ranting, raving, and there's a lot of narcissistic rage, and that's comes with the territory with that type of personality, the NPD personality traits that she has. I did agree with Bam on the CJ. I did agree with Bam on the constant request for donations was too much. I did agree with Bam on Claire Morgan. It was established that she wasn't an attorney or a lawyer, but she took it to another level, and a level that I wasn't prepared to take it to. It's like when you're driving down a road and you're going in a straight direction and you're going along just fine. And instead of taking that that route where you're going along just fine, you're about to get to your destination, but instead you zigzag and you reverse and you turn, and then you drive over to the cliff. This is what she started doing. Her level of disdain for the R's, I think, was unhealthy. She developed what I would say is an unhealthy fixation with Frankie and the R's. That's my personal opinion. And then using Shanann to go at them. When she started doing that repeatedly, I saw that she had an agenda, and the agenda that went too far. Every time I look her up on Google, because I think, she's gone in the sense that, she was taken down, and, we never got to hear what she has to say about all of this. She kind of has like disappeared in the sense that she hasn't said anything, in response to all of this. And she's somebody who was online very regularly. She was online very regularly to engage with whatever she wanted to engage with. And now there's been nothing. So I think there's still a curiosity to see what she would say about all this. When I do search for her on YouTube, there's this lady that often comes up, and there's this question: is she Irish? Because she's always referred to as Irish. Well, when I was going to school, I had an Irish teacher, but she was from Belfast, and her family considered her as, they considered themselves as English. And when in actual fact, her ancestry was Scottish. So, a lot of Anglo-Irish people, Protestant people from Belfast, their ancestors are usually primarily of Scottish or English ancestry, who came to Ireland and who were able to get land that were not annexed for the native Irish people. And that's my understanding of it. You can inform me, you can educate me, you can tell me your version of the story, but that is my basic history of the Irish people who are of English or Scottish ancestry, that they consider themselves to be English, or they consider themselves to be British and not Irish. Even though I will admit myself that I do consider anyone from Ireland who was born and raised there to be Irish. There's lots of English people who have Irish ancestry, but I consider them still to be English. The Beatles, they were a British band. A lot of them have Irish ancestry. A lot of the members of the Beatles are actually Irish in ancestry, but they're still British, in my opinion. So, whether you're Welsh, Scottish, English, or Irish, it's all very similar to me. It depends on what it depends on your opinion of everything. Her loyal support, Helen has described it as her loyal sheep. I think they should have done something instead of calling her queen. There was somebody who was talking about Bam the other day online and saying Bam subs would come after her if she said anything. Can you imagine how much supply Bam got from seeing people that she doesn't even like going at people for her benefit? I mean, that just goes to show you how much she had people under her spell. And I'm not saying that her subs didn't have their own opinions. And I'm not saying that her subs couldn't see through some of the stuff that she was saying. I'm sure her subs have their own opinions. But, she really had them under her spell in terms of how they would go after people for saying anything about her. Her supply sources, I think she was on YouTube regularly for gifts, pet supplies, food, and PayPal donations. That's just my personal opinion. Her fawning and love for AD and wanting him to have compensation and thinking that he was entitled to compensation, that kind of that made me realize that she's very selective in her idea about morals. Her moral compass is very selective. So she has morals when it suits her purpose. That's what I'm really trying to say. because she said that, she told me a lot of things that she thought that AD did. She told me that she thought that he'd taken advantage of the Watts case and made money off of it. She told me that he'd taken her work and made money off of it. Anyone else who would have done that would have gotten the hairdryer treatment from BAM. But yet she wanted him to get compensation and more money after she actually told me that she thinks he took advantage of the Watts case. Yet she wants him to. I mean, she actually said before she went down, that her wish was for AD to get compensation. Compensation for what, and compensation by who exactly? So her fawning and love for AD tells me that her moral compass is very, very selective, and also her 360-degree turnaround and love bamming. I'm going to call it love bamming of Natasha. It just showed me that she really didn't have any morals, that she simply had an agenda. And, that's really what I think. She doesn't really have genuine morals. She has an agenda instead. Her deep love for AD and fawning over AD, and she's going to be a star witness for AD, and her subs are going to be other star witnesses for AD. I mean, just, she really, really talks a lot of fantasy. A lot of fantasy talk comes out of her mouth. And, Kiss, as far as I know, was a very good friend to her. Kiss went for me because of that podcast I did where I said that, don't necessarily trust everybody who tells you they're going to do something. Don't trust everyone who smiles in your face. Kiss went for me. And the interesting thing is that all along, for 3 years, for whatever reason, and I don't understand why, because Kiss seemed to be a very loving, loyal, devoted friend to BAM. During my time in BAM's channel, Kiss appeared on BAM's live stream at times and was very nice to BAM. And yet BAM didn't like her and thought that Kiss had taken her work, or something to that effect. I mean, can you imagine that? Now a lot of BAM subs have formed their own little friendship group. They've gone into their own splinter friendship group, and she'll probably be sitting there saying to herself that these people wouldn't even know each other if it wasn't for her, because that's the type of person that she is. Everything comes round back to her, and everything is because of her. And that's just how she is. I mean, when it comes down to it, she really is all about herself. And that's what Justin's like, all about himself. So, with Wiccan and Sheila and Darzen and, the rest, forming their own little friendship group and bonding together, she'll probably look at that and say, they wouldn't even know each other if it wasn't for me. Because that's exactly what she's like. Everything comes down to being about her. And, that's probably one of the best things that they can do, is to move on and become friends with each other. But when it comes to the back and forth between the two sides, I'm out of that. I'm not going to get involved with it. I just want to get along with my YouTube channel, be civil to people who come to my channel who are respectful, and get on with what I'm doing. I have no interest in being in different groups and being on different sides and going back and forth with anybody. Like I said, I want a peaceful, calm time on YouTube. Not everyone who comes to my channel has to agree with everything I say or like everything that I say. But as long as you're respectful and civil, that's absolutely fine by me. I'm not on any side whatsoever. I'm just me. I'm just little old me. I'm 87. I'm not really. Well, of course I'm not 87, but I do like to joke about that. I do like to joke and say I'm 87 years old. Sometimes I feel it. Not even my parents are that age. So, I'm just little old me doing my thing, and I don't belong on any side. I would like to stay in a neutral position. And, if I'm not a fan of somebody, sometimes I might talk about them or make people aware of that person. But I'm not, I would never do what she did, get online and just talk the way she did. And the fact that the people who stayed there and listened to that, what she was saying, and didn't speak up until they found out that she wasn't a fan of them. I think it ties into my idea that, they were really under her spell. Anyway, I hope everyone has a nice holiday and a nice Christmas. I probably won't be posting another podcast until after Christmas. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. But, I wish everyone a peaceful holiday. Happiness, peace, good food, good wine. But, more than anything else, I wish you all a peaceful, peaceful Christmas.